We create inflammation in our stomach from a wide variety of reasons, for a wide variety of reasons. And if we don't have a healthy stomach, then we're much more likely to get the ulcers. And whether it's caused by a bug or just too much acid, I don't care. You got to repair the stomach. And you do that by taking care of it. There's all sorts of good things out there. So people came up with a treatment for this H. pylori, which consists of this herb called mastic gum and a couple other things. So you can get rid of that bug without taking the antibiotics. But you got to repair the stomach. And what do you think one of the major causes of inflammation in the stomach is? Or probably the major cause, in my opinion. Food allergies. What else is going to cause inflammation in your stomach? I don't know why that's such a mystery. Let's see, where'd you go to medical school? But they don't teach it in medical school. Anyway, food allergies are probably the most common thing. Now, why do you think we have so many food allergies? Don't know that one, huh?
Because the food's refined and
That's
they
one
take
reason.
The good out. Tampered with.
Pardon?
They take the good out of it.
That's part of it, so we don't aren't as well nourished. But watch most people's diets. Because we're so sophisticated, we can eat watermelon in December. Our diets are very, very monotonous. We eat the same foods over and over and over again. You say to someone, well, there's some split pea soup left over, let's have it for breakfast. What? Split pea soup for breakfast? I gotta have cereal and toast and orange juice. And so look at what we consider primitive cultures. Most places around the world, for most of the history of the world, how did they eat? Did they get 3 different foods during the day? They would eat what they could grow. And in one season it was this, and the seasons changed, their diet changed. We don't do that as much. Oh, sure, well, we see corn on the cobs, we'll buy a few, and oh, there's some fresh string beans, so I'll buy those. But see, what we really should be doing is focusing our diet on what's, well, cheap in the grocery store. You know, it's just, you know, cherries were, it got down to about $2 a pound. And so that's when you should eat cherries. Do you need cherries in August? Need.
There's out right now.
Need what?
Yeah, there's cherries out right now.
Oh, they're fading. You see any on your tree?
They're fading.
They're not my tree. They're gone.
Yeah.
See, cherry season really only lasts maybe 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And then we move into another season. Then we move into another season, and that's the way we should be eating. But see, we don't have to do that anymore, and so we have a sort of a monotonous diet. We don't digest the foods, so we're overexposing ourselves to these foods that we eventually become sensitized to because number one, we don't digest them. Number two, we have leaky gut. Number three, these partially digested foods get into our immune system and we get reactions to them. Now, the very interesting thing came along. They found a guy that had gluten sensitivity. And that, you know, all of you know that's wheat. And oats and a few other things. They found some wheat that had been grown 200 years ago. And they said, well, let's just try this. So they prepared that food with that wheat, and he didn't have a bit of trouble with it. And I don't know what that means, but it means things are changing.
We messed stuff up.
Pardon?
We messed stuff up.
Yeah, we mess stuff up. We're genetically modifying stuff. We're trying to force the ground to make food that it's too worn out to make on its own. We're doing a lot of things to food that is not good for us. And this genetic modification is just going to kill us. Anyway, so we got to give our body a chance to heal. So
How do you spell that? What you had there?
Oh, this little this is this is called gastric repair.
Oh, okay.
And it's got a bunch of good stuff in it. It's got deglycerized licorice, which is another great thing for your stomach. It's got mastic gum, aloe vera, bismuth, potassium, and bicarbonate. There's a variety of them on the market. There's okay, so we got to give her a chance. So the first thing you do, you got to stop the inflammation. when I was in medical school, it was interesting. There was kind of a joke. Everybody saying, "Well, what are you going to be? What are you going to be?" Everybody, when you're, and the joke was, "Well, become a dermatologist, because no one ever dies and no one ever gets well. They just keep coming back." But it's getting to be that way in almost every specialty. If you're a psychiatrist, you ever get people well? No, you just keep manipulating the medications. If you're a rheumatologist, they ever get well? No, you just keep. If you treat depression, if you treat irritable bowel, see, it's all we've lost the ability to look for the cause, and so we get very good at treating. Why do you think that is?
Money.
Oh, you cynic over here. Yeah, we don't comprehend how much money is involved. And most of us, it's hard to comprehend a million, let alone a billion. But we're talking trillions. I saw an ad in the paper. Oh, no, it was an article in some paper. A drug company got sued $500 million. You think, wow, you really punished them. Well, then you read the article and you see the average gross on that particular drug was something like $2.5 billion.
Mm.
So anyway, it's huge business. And so you're never going to get the answers from I won't say never. It's much more likely you're going to have to find the answers yourself.
That's right.
You've got to go out there and search. And we're so fortunate to have the internet where we can go and learn these things. There's all sorts of information. Okay, so if you want to heal the stomach, you got to get rid of the cause. And so what you have to do is get on a diet that avoids, at least initially, the big seven. And that's, gluten and milk and corn and a few other things. I hope you're all eating quinoa now.
What?
Yes, you are. Quinoa.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
What is it?
yeah.
Quinoa.
I think
Oh, quinoa. Okay.
Well, it's pronounced quinoa.
I just say it.
Yeah, it looks more like quinoa, but that is it's very nutritious food, and now I don't really understand the difference between a grain and a seed, but apparently there is some difference. But they say quinoa is not a grain, and since very few of us have ever been exposed to it, very few of us are sensitive to it. But it's a great way if you want to see it trying to heal something. It's best to go off grain, but quinoa is a pretty good substitute. We had it for dinner tonight. I didn't know what to fix the kids, and it's hot, and they're there. Anyway, so there was some steak thawed out in the freezer, so it had to be quick because everybody's hungry. So I put a pot of quinoa, and in 10 minutes it's ready. It's quick, and everybody liked it. You find something everybody likes, you have it made. But anyway, quinoa and fruit. Very few people are allergic to a lot of fruits. But you got to get away from the major foods. You got to go off dairy products. You got to go off grain. You got to go off corn. You got to go off those sorts of things, which are the major causes. You should all be able to go 24 hours without eating and still feel pretty good. That is how you determine. It's kind of a very rough test, but it's a quick, simple way to find out if you have food allergies that have become food addictions. See, if you're a smoker or drink coffee, what would you feel like if you quit using those things the first day or two? You feel bad because you go through withdrawal phase. Our bodies are tricky. If you keep using something that's not good for you, pretty soon your body has this ability to mask your symptoms, and you'll feel good then as long as you keep using the stuff, and then you'll feel bad if you try and quit. See, initially, it's like when my friends tried to get me to smoke. So, you puff on a cigarette and blow it out your nose, but you wouldn't inhale it. And they'd say, "Oh, come on, inhale it." That's a macho thing to do. So the first time I tried to inhale, I had a coughing fit. So I never tried again. But they say, no, if you keep doing it, pretty soon you'll get over that. Pretty soon it won't bother you anymore. Well, aren't they good? But in those days, I was in the Navy, and they give you cigarettes. These nice guys, they just give me all these free cigarettes. I was in college, and they're giving away free cigarettes. You come out of the cafeteria, they give you free cigarettes. Anyway, but see, if you use it over and over again, pretty soon you tolerate it. Until you try and quit, then you go through withdrawal. Foods do the same thing. And so you should go 24 hours with nothing but water and see how you feel. If you don't feel fine, you'll be hungry, but that's not the same as shaky, weak, can't get out of bed, my headache splitting. Anyway, you shouldn't have any of those symptoms. You may still have minor allergies, we probably all do, but they probably aren't a major contributor to your health problem. Okay, so after the food leaves the stomach, you should have a nice acid slurry in your stomach. And then it goes into the small intestine. There things change. When the acid material from the stomach hits the small intestine, the gallbladder contracts and the pancreas squirts in pancreatic enzymes and bicarbonate. And that's what's necessary to change the pH of that material sufficiently to allow pancreatic enzymes and the bile to work efficiently. So if anywhere along that, let's say you're drinking with your meals and you're in a hurry and you're uptight, and then that material hits your small intestine, it's not acidic. Your gallbladder doesn't contract. And if this goes on long enough, you're much more likely to get gallstones, because that bile gets condensed and sludgy, and you're much more likely, if you have other deficiency, to develop gallstones. And if your pancreas isn't working well, then you don't get the bicarbonate in there to change the pH, and then the enzymes don't work as well. So it gets to be a domino. Bang, 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 bang. And unfortunately, you don't notice it. You don't, oh, my stomach doesn't feel real good, but everybody else is complaining too, so you don't pay a lot of attention to it. And very rarely do doctors really talk about this sort of stuff. Have anybody heard a doctor talk to you about this? No. Okay. Now it's very interesting. I put in here someplace, I think. There isn't it? Yeah, down the very bottom of the third page. There's certain enzymes, certain hormones that the body uses. Hormones are signalers. They're the thing that your body makes if it wants to send a signal to a different part of the body. The brain produces certain hormones, and they go to the adrenal gland, and then the adrenal gland does something. They go to the testicles or the ovary, and then those organs do something. So it's all this signaling. You find where I'm at? Mm-hmm. On the paragraph that talks about small intestine. Okay. Now, fat and protein trigger the release of a hormone called cholecystokinin. Third line from the bottom. That's not important. Just remember there's a hormone released when we eat protein and fat. And that protein then goes to the brain and tells you it doesn't say you're full, but it says you've been eating. Now, one problem with eating fast is you don't get these signals in the same way you would get if you ate slowly. Have you ever noticed you can eat so much more if you eat fast than if you eat slowly? Now, when we eat carbohydrates, we don't get that signal as quickly. There's very few pure carbohydrates. So wheat, 17% protein and about 10% fat. So you get, there's a mixture in all these things. But carbohydrates generally don't send this signal. So the brain doesn't get the signal effectively to tell you to quit eating.
That's why you get bread first.
Pardon?
That's why you get bread first, right?
Yeah, if you didn't get bread first, you wouldn't eat as much bread, Yeah, free breadsticks, that's a great come on it. I think that's the Olive Garden, you get free breadsticks. Anyway, and that's probably one of the reasons the high protein, high fat diets have been successful. Because we're getting those things, we feel, and that's a trick with more and more I'm seeing this in Ladies' Home Journal and Self and First, those magazines. They're saying if you want to feel satisfied after eating, you've got to eat fat. But for years, we've all grown up with the idea that if I eat fat, I'll get fat. It's just totally the opposite. So often that is the case in this whole business. What you hear in the popular press is 180 degrees out of reality. And so, now, but then, okay, this gets to the point of fat. Fat is good fat. There's good fats and there's bad fats. What do you think the good fat might be?
Cod liver oil.
Cod liver oil. Have you ever cooked with that? You ever fried a steak in cod liver oil?
Coconut.
Okay, yeah, basically. But see, how come no one said lard? See, now lard is what did your grandparents grow up on? What did your grandmother make pie crust out of? See, you use lard. You render the fat of an animal, and you get lard. And that's why all these traditional cultures, they pick out the animals that had the most fat accumulated. That's the one they try and kill. Now, why do Eskimos survive so well on such a high-fat diet? We get into trouble when we try to become more efficient in raising animals, and we put them in crowded conditions, and we feed them a bunch of chemicals and things like that. But basically, our main source of fat should be lard or tallow. That's what our bodies need for all sorts of good things. Coconut oil is a very good one. It's what they call a medium chain triglyceride, but it's very efficient. I don't know if you've seen this, but they're saying in certain cases you can reverse Alzheimer's and dementia with 3 tablespoons of coconut oil a day. And it's really a very bland. I put our coconut oil over by the toaster, and you make yourself a piece of toaster bread and just smear some coconut oil on there, and then whatever, I can't even taste it for the most part, but it doesn't change the flavor. You put it on the stove or by the stove, you can fry eggs in it, you can put it in the oatmeal, you can put it in hot tea, because it melts so easily and doesn't affect the taste at all. It leaves you a little oily feeling, but it's just great stuff. And along those lines, and I was going to get this later, but I know Winco and places like that have bulk foods, but there is actually a website, I think it's called bulkfoods.com, where you can get a lot of these things. Like I was just looking up sea salt. Things like this Celtic salt that costs about $6-8 a pound. But on that, now this is an older one, so it's probably gone up a bit, but it was something like 5 pounds for $10. And we're going to get into culturing food. And basically, if you're going to preserve food, all you need is salt and water. So it would be a great thing to have for an emergency. Because with your big garden, if you didn't have your electricity, what are you going to do? Yeah.